What's up, everybody? This is Pete from the Pete Says Vlogcast, and this is your first ever episode with a guest, and we're gonna say what's on our mind. You know how we do it on the Pete Says Vlogcast. All right, man. So this is it. This is the very first ever episode where I have a guest. Normally, I'm talking to myself, so it's a little different.
Yeah,
So,
well, I appreciate you having me for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be on.
So what we were, the reason I even wanted to have my brother on is he's been a big fan of mine, which is always great when you're a creative person and you have someone that is believing in what you're doing and things like that. Also, we've always had really good conversations. But before we get into all that, I'm going to have him just kind of just shoot us a brief overview of who you are, what you're doing, whatever you want to tell the people who don't know you yet and that sort of thing.
I was excited to be on here because I look at Peter and all he's doing, and he is very creative. And I would definitely say that I'm not creative at all. So, there's different ways to look at it, but as far as like what the world says, oh, this is creative and this is not creative, like I am very much not the creative type. So just to think of things to say or think of, like develop worlds, like I like movies. So even like people that like create worlds or write books and like all these in-depth things, like that's so cool to me. So I really enjoy that stuff because I'm, I don't think that way. Ever since we were younger, Peter was always the creative one, always like, writing poems and,
Plays.
I would like give mom a card that was like, Happy Mother's Day, I love you. And Peter's like, oh, my dearest mother, back from the day I knew that you were my mom, and he's like giving her paintings and, all this stuff. And I, and again, I'm not that way. So I'm just kind of more like, hey, happy birthday, and, Peter puts this big thing together. Like he's always just been that way. So very creative. And so I did end up joining the military. And the reason I say that is because I think a reason that I really do well in the military, for me personally, is because I'm very much that sort of person that I'm able to, like when someone tells me to do something, I'll go do it. I'm not thinking like, okay, I want to take what they say and how they do it. I want to break it apart. I really want to figure out the best way. Like, I don't think that way. And so the military is very much about like, go do what you're told and go get it done. And sometimes you might have a better idea, and of course they encourage that sometimes. But sometimes they just want you to do what you're told. Just go do it. Don't complain. Don't ask why. Don't try to change it up. Don't do anything different. Just go do it. And so I do well with the military because of how I think that way. So
again, I think, like, and just not to interrupt, but that's the very reason why I did not join, because I'm like, I don't want someone shouting in my face telling me what to do. Like, if I want to do it, then I'll do it. Like, you don't need to break me down and rebuild me or something. Like, just explain why we're doing it. If it makes sense, then you have my loyalty 100%.
See, but right there, that's the funny part is it doesn't have to make sense. And they don't want you, they don't care if it makes sense. They just want you to listen to what you're supposed to do. If it's not unlawful, if it's not hurting anybody or not, then you go do it. So, yeah. So that's what's funny is even you saying that, like, that's like, yeah, but that's not part of how the military works. Like that's,
oh man.
I joined the military and then, I got a job after active duty. I got a job where I was an installer. So I learned a lot about construction and all that. And that was really fun for me because it was pushing my creative boundaries, even just learning about like, hey, we have to run these wires from this closet over to here where we're installing speakers, and we have to go through that wall. It's addition, so there's a it used to be an outside wall, but now it's inside. But so you have to like use different drill bits and different, like the construction is. So that to me, even just doing that stuff was like, oh my gosh, like it was very creative and like pushing me sometimes.
I had a dream.
You were sent here for a reason. And even if it takes you the rest of your life, find out what that reason is.
So a movie I'm very excited to come out very soon is Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I've watched interviews with him where they talk to him about his vision and what he's doing. And Zack Snyder to me is such a good filmmaker because he's so visionary. He made Watchmen, he made 300. They were such good movies that like Watchmen, they said, was basically unfilmable. And 300, I mean, again, the graphics, the way he did it, everything was just so good. And so I really I love watching him. And so I'm excited for this Justice League movie to come out just because they gave him complete control.
That was the thing that we got into that I thought was really cool was, well, you could look at it, okay, let's use that jumping off point in the fact that you have a creative person like him and you have the executives before when they came out with the first one where they put a cap on everything, right?
They only wanted it to be I think two
you
hours.
said like 2 hours, and he wanted it to be like 4
like no
or
more
whatever.
than 2 hours, and they squashed a lot of his ideas, and so there was this battle between him and his vision and what the studio wanted, and so this time it's really exciting to know that he has again anything he wanted he could do, and so we're getting almost a 4 hour epic visionary tale that he had no constraints on. So I'm like really excited for that.
You said they're developing the characters more. You think in Justice League, right?
Oh yeah, like that's he's definitely going way deeper into showing backstory and really developing characters. And Zack Snyder to me is really good at making his characters like you care about them when you watch a movie. You know what I mean? They're not just like this movie you watch. Like even like when you watch 300, like he has to leave his wife to basically go. Leonidas has to walk away from his wife.
Mm-hmm. And they show him on that long, that long
and there's
driveway,
so much even like before he leaves, they're talking and there's passion and there's sadness, but he has to be strong. Like you feel that. That movie has so much emotion. It's not just about like, oh, it's great action and killing. Like there's so much that Zack Snyder is good at just capturing.
So it's
emotion.
Character building is what he's really good at.
Again, even to have source material like a comic book and say film this, I wouldn't even know how to go about the process of trying to capture that. I'm able to like sit back and just like be in awe of how someone can be so creative. It seems like you could pause every single second, and it's fun for me to listen to creative people because again, I've watched him be interviewed. I watched an interview with his wife, who's the producer.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
they work on movies together.
Wow.
And so she produced the Justice League, and so they were talking to her about it. And again, I really enjoy it, but I know that I'm not that way. But I think that's why it's just really fun for me to like. I get into that. Jared Leto's Joker. Like when I first saw it, I hated it.
Yeah, you said,
I was like,
yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, like. Has a grill and tattoos. Like, I was like, what the heck is
Dude,
this?
I thought you looked awesome.
Oh, I hated it at first. It's a huge victory. I think I said this to you.
Go into that. Yeah.
It's a huge victory for creative people.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, to me, the studio had to basically, like, swallow their pride and say, yeah, you probably could have done it better. So I think they said they gave him, like, 20 or 30 million to play with and said, go make your movie.
Do your thing, man. Yep.
To see what he's going to do, again, is, like, exciting as a non-creative person, but he's so creative in his craft.
And it's funny because you said like you like that I can, or creative people in general can create a world, because inside my head I can create any type of world I want and feel like I'm a part of that world. So even like remember when we were just kind of bringing it back when we were younger, and I would come up with plays and we would be like, Andrew was always the bad guy getting beat up.
When he says plays. He means martial arts.
Yeah, man.
Where Peter was always the hero.
Before Jackie Chan, where I was ducking under tables, rolling over things. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah,
man.
so
like,
basically I could tell you how it goes. So he would have this whole idea. Okay, I'm so excited, Andrew. I can't wait. We're going to make this thing. We're going to show mom and dad. It's going to be so cool. We're going to have martial arts and fighting. And it's going to be awesome. I'm like, hey, great, let's do it. So he'll be like, all right, so you stand here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run from over there. I'm going to jump over the table. I'm going to climb the tree. I'm going to jump out. And I'm going to roll here. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to punch this. And I'm going to come over here. And then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. And then, like, meanwhile, I'm standing there like, what do I do? And he's like, and then at the very end, I'm going to come here. And I'm going to go, Pah! And punch you in the face. And I'm like, okay. And then most times he would actually hit me in the face by accident or the stomach. And so, yeah, so he got to do the creative stuff, and I stood there. So that's probably his fault that I'm the way I am, because he didn't give me any ground.
Well, you could have been creative. I mean,
well,
you just stood there.
Yeah, well, see, you didn't.
So that was the
that's the
difference.
Play that we would do.
Yeah, I say play. I don't know what else to call it, but yeah, it wasn't like a play. Yeah, yeah. But I think that's just funny how we grew up playing together. We grew up, but we were very different. I was always pushing the boundaries. What can I? And it's never what can I get away with to be bad, but it was just like, what's over there? I want to check it out, And see, like you never got in trouble. Like
no, even like that, I'm not a rule breaker at all. Anybody who really knows me knows that, and I don't like pushing things. I don't like testing boundaries. I don't like doing that. And so even for me, it will, if they're like, hey, don't go over there, then I won't. There could be something that could be life changing. That would be the most amazing thing ever. But if someone says don't do that, I don't do it. I just, that's just how I am. Like
I'd be like, why? Because I'm probably going to go over there at some point.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. And then I'm like, kids, don't go over there because we were told not to go over there. Like, I don't really question those things sometimes. So even in that regards, like, the creative, I'm just like, oh, listen to what someone says because they probably know better than me. And so that's fine. But yeah, so.
But I think it's funny though, because like I was thinking about it, and you said like you're not creative, in your job. There's certain things you do the way that you do them, and you don't question it. But then the next sentence, you were like, "But if I know why, I can figure out a system that works." And like, so I think there is a creativity to everybody. It's just I think when people, and I talked about it in one of my episodes where basically I'm trying to get past the thoughts that most people have when you say creative. They think, paper, pen, drawing, writing, but it can be creative business. It can be creative in how you use an Excel spreadsheet because it's a way of thinking outside the box from what you are doing, when you're doing what you're doing. And so, but I think you have that, but and that's why you have that leadership quality, because if you really just did what someone else wanted and that was it, you wouldn't be the leader that you are in the military in certain places. You're always looked on as someone who can lead, but a leader thinks beyond what other people usually do. You know what I mean? I think if you were truly just someone that was like, I just do it and then I sit down and I don't think, you have expanding ideas.
I'll say thank you. Nancy, my wife, says the same thing, but I tell her I don't really see it that way. But again, we look at things different ways. Really, for me, I've always said that I just want to make it about the people. And that's kind of how I am. I always want to care about the people, because there's enough people in this world that are driven to succeed in their job, to rank up, or to become the manager, or all those things. I want to be the person that's hopefully known for actually caring about people. Even in military, like I'm usually hanging most of the time probably with like lower ranking people, because I don't want to separate myself from the lower ranking people. And I've always said I don't ever want to be defined by my rank, and I don't ever want to separate like, oh, all the higher ups sit in this room and then all the lower ranking people sit over here. To me, that doesn't help anything, because you're not getting to help the lower ranking people. You're not getting to guide them. You're not getting to give them advice, and you're just separate. And then you come together for a job and you work together, and then you just tell them what to do. Like, that's not, to me, that doesn't really help anything.
Your choice of friends in like high school and stuff too were always the people that most people before you came along thought were like the losers or something. And then all of a sudden they were like the cool kids, whether anybody else thought or not. There was a coolness all of a sudden because you first didn't care what other people thought, and then you were kind of showing them how cool they were. You know what I mean?
Like blessed to find friends like me that didn't really care what other people thought, And that's one of the things, I can credit our parents for, was that, I was very confident in who I was and how God made me. And so if someone didn't like that, I didn't really care. So I didn't change for anybody. So I was a really, really, really big goofball back in high school. Like, now you walk through the mall and there's like that loud group of people that are like annoying, and they're like, oh, they're like tripping and falling over people, or they're like, doing just those dumb pranks in the mall. Like, and you're like, dude, like, go get a job. Just leave me alone. Like, but they're that loud group of friends. That was exactly me and my friends, because we didn't care, but we had a great time. We just had a fun time. But that was my thing, was I never liked to like cross the line to where I could hurt anybody or even like inconvenience them. I didn't like that. So we would be funny and just having a great time. I didn't care what people thought. But if someone's like, hey, can you guys be quiet? I'd be like, oh yeah, guys, like, let's keep it down. Like, we don't want to be rude or anything, but a lot of times, if I wasn't there, I was kind of always like the voice to kind of pull my friends back. And I think even now, a lot of times, like, I'm the voice that's like, hey, let's not do
voice
that.
Of reason.
Yeah, the voice of reason. Like, like I see the like documentaries or something, like people like breaking into places where they shouldn't go, and they're like hiding cameras so they can film it. Like, I'm not that person, because I'd be like, you're breaking the law. Don't do that. Like, you can't do that. You know, like, what's in Area 51? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really care.
They
Like,
said not to.
yeah, I can't go in there because there's a sign. So don't cross the, you know.
It's funny because, like, if you didn't care about what people thought, you would go past certain lines. But it's almost like you didn't care what people thought, but you had a line. I cared what people thought and did so many things that would hate to even admit at this point. You know what I mean? Like, because I just said I want to do that, so I'm going to do it, and it doesn't matter what anybody says or thinks. That's what I want to do. But I think that's the danger of, like you say, creating a world. You can also create a world where there's no rules for yourself, but really there are rules. And so a lot of times I'd find myself bumping up against people or, rules where it was like, yeah, but I'm doing what I think is right. And I used to think that was good enough, but now kind of coming closer to like God and stuff, it's more about how he wants me to live. And so if I'm just living by my own rules, like it's not going to have the same effect, I think, for my life. You know what I mean? But it's just funny that like I would think you would be the one that would be the rule breaker based on what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Well, even like with that, God made us exactly as we are and how he wanted us to be. And so, like, I'm okay with not being creative. I put a video together for one of my friends. And I got a bunch of videos from other people, and they sent them to me. And, like, I even talked to you about asking for some advice, like, how to do things and stuff. But, like, that was so hard for me because I really had to sit and, like, push myself. And then, like, okay, I want to edit here. And then I'm going to, like, fade the music out here. But then I'll bring it in here. And, like, I was, like, drained. At the end of the day, it was, like, I'd rather, like, do construction. Because I was, like, I'd feel better at the end of the day. But it didn't, like, feed me.
Creative stuff, it feeds me.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have an end to a means. I don't have to have to make money off of it necessarily to get to have a feeling of accomplishment. My accomplishment is what's in here, and then I made it reality.
Yeah.
I feel good. Like, man, I just did something today.
Yeah, and I'm very aware, again, that, like, when you do something you love and that really speaks to you, and that's your love language, that's your, again, like, when you do something creative, it really feeds you. I always say that. To me, again, it drains me. I'm
so
tired.
What feeds you then?
Oh, jeez.
Like, people?
I don't really do a lot of stuff.
Well, not stuff, but like people, like seeing people, because you said a lot about people and who,
both Nancy and I are very much like, we love to have people over. So, like, when people come over, we both like to feed them and make them happy. Like, I love to bring people together. At the same time, like, I'm very much a checklist person. So even when, before I was married, I'd be like, hey, I need to get a bunch of stuff done today. I would have that time where maybe at the end of the day I didn't get done a lot of what I was hoping to, and so I would feel like, oh man, I wasted my day or whatever. So I would write down a checklist, and so I'd say, oh, I need to change the oil, I need to do this, I need to do this, and I'd write down some stuff, but then throw in other stuff that I did that maybe didn't even really have to do with the day, but it's stuff I normally do. Like, oh, I vacuumed today, so vacuum the room. So then I like write it out, and then I go through and I'm like, okay, I did that, and I can cross off the easy stuff. And that would like, oh, okay, I got a lot of the checklist done, even though potentially I didn't get the big stuff done, but because I could see that checklist and I could see this stuff.
So it's like a task.
Yeah, task oriented, very much. And even like, so I do enjoy painting, but it's not the creative, like, oh, I enjoy the process and I enjoy, like, it's the end result. When I get to stand back and I have a room that's empty,
Done.
like I just painted my living room and my kitchen, and being able to see the end result, that does make me happy. I really wanted
talking
to.
A little closer.
Really want. Oh, jeez. Really.
No, you don't have to lick it.
Really. Really wanted to. So it wasn't like the process of it, and that's, I think, creative people, they love the process. It's like, I think I would, in my mind, again, as a non-creative person, what I would guess is that you enjoy the process.
Oh, yeah.
But when you finish, you almost miss it. Because you're like, oh, now I need to find something else to fill that. To me, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm so tired of doing this. But when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I love it. And so
it's funny
again,
you
it's
say that.
The end process.
Yeah, because like I even find myself, if I'm going to be just setting up for something, I kind of drag it out because I love that like anticipation of getting it ready and thinking through what to do. And then I do feel good that I finished something, but it's not the same as when I'm actually in the flow working and doing it. If we look at personalities, like that could even be why a lot of creative people jump around, and I have thousands of unfinished projects in my head, because if I finish them, then I'm done. So
Yeah.
if I have something continuously running and I can keep adding to it, I have like a whole play drama thing that I have in my head that I'm writing.
Oh, you want to punch me again?
Yes. I'm in complete control of my body.
yeah. Okay, Bruce Lee.
So it's like, but it's been like 4 or 5 years doing that.
Yeah.
For some people, they'd be like, "Oh, it's time to give it up," and I'm like, "Well, I haven't even. No,
Yeah.
that's not it's the process of being in the middle of something and thinking through something. How can I make this work? I've talked about the Enneagram, being a 4. So, what Enneagram number are you then?
I'm a 9, a strong 9, and then I'm a wing 1. But the 9 is the mediator. And it's funny because that's completely the role of what I did when we were deployed. Because we had a bunch of different types of guys. The one guy, he feeds off of making people upset. He lives for Facebook comments to just really, really make people upset. Like, he loves that. But he doesn't mean it. He's not like a mean person. At the end of the day, if he pissed some people off, he feels good. Like, but he doesn't, it's not a personal thing. He's not truly attacking you, but he just loves it. Like, so we had that person. Then we had someone who was very much like, more of a person that like, like when you talk to them, you don't go up to them and just be like, hey, go do that. And like, I'm more that kind. Like, just tell me what you want. Don't just cut to the chase. Tell me what to do and I'll go do it. But this person is more of the type where you gotta like talk to them first, and they want to engage on personal relationship first.
Hey.
So that's the
me.
thing. Before telling them what to do, they want to feel that you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go, so first, hey, how are you doing today? Like how's what did you do after work last night? You like talk, you engage with them a little bit, and then you can be like, oh hey, would you be able to go over it? And he's more than happy to do it, but because he felt that you gave him that time to connect.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of the guys did the Enneagram, and it was really cool because we actually put it in a group chat. I told them to like take a screenshot of the results, and we put it up, and then I would say, oh, you're a 3. Well, what that means is this. It was really helpful because I could see that again. And the Enneagram test is, I mean, I don't think I've ever met anybody that was like, oh no, that's not me. Like it nails you.
Yeah.
It's very, very accurate.
And just a real quick thing, I do have a link in the description for an Enneagram test because I talk about that here and there. So there is a link to a test.
Awesome. Yeah.
So,
no,
yeah,
I would
check it
recommend
out.
go do it. The Enneagram I love too is it not only shows you your number, but it shows you how to relate to other people's numbers. Like we could look it up and they have every number, how it relates and how it helps with the other number. So Peter, I could look up on the result and it would actually say, you're a 9 wing 1, how to relate to a 4 wing 3 would be this. And again, it was like, man, these people like read my mind.
Amber is a 9 as well. And so I think if I remember correctly, the unhealthy 9, they'll tend to care about the other person rather than voicing their own opinions. And so that was in the beginning of our marriage. Like she would never voice anything that she wanted or didn't like. And then we just had to keep working at it. And so,
and that's what I
like,
think is so amazing about that test is that, when before you really knew that might have been like a struggle, but then when you find that out, that's just how they are.
Yeah.
And so they're not responding wrong. They're just responding different to what you would prefer.
Yeah.
But in the same exact way, you're responding different than what they would probably prefer.
Mm-hmm.
So like, again, it helps you understand that person. And again, how, Peter goes there, I go there too. It's amazing how God made people so different. And there's so many different ways that you relate to people, especially in relationship. Like it seems opposites always attract.
It's been 11 years for Amber and I, and so I don't know everything, and I want it to be a process where I learn her. I don't want to know her completely in the first year. I want it to be fun for the rest of our lives to understand each other. And she's going to be changing as she's getting older. I'm changing as I'm getting older too. All right, everybody, so there's the conclusion of episode 5, part 1. Be sure to stick around for part 2 coming up in the next few weeks. I hope to see you there, and thank you for your listenership. This is Pete from the Pete Says Vlogcast. I'll check you later.